Good afternoon, and thank you for joining the webinar today. I'm Bobby Bain with Pulse Supply, and joining me is Kevin Suter with TELoIP. Today our discussion will focus on SD-WAN. At the end of the presentation, we'll have a brief question and answer session about the material. Feel free to type questions into the GoToWebinar panel at any time, and we'll get them answered either right then if we can, or at the end of the call. So let's get started. During today's presentation, we're going to provide a brief introduction of our companies and talk about SD-WAN. We'll introduce SD-WAN, the concept of SD-WAN, talk about what it is. We'll also discuss why SD-WAN makes sense and what the benefits are. We'll discuss the different classifications of SD-WAN, or the taxonomy of the technology. And finally, we'll provide some price and performance examples. For those of you who may not be familiar with Pulse, we have been around for more than 20 years, and we're a distributor of network connectivity products. We work with many different types of companies to solve issues like the ones that we'll be discussing today. TELoIP is our key partner in SD-WAN technology, and as this field continues to develop, they are uniquely positioned to provide all of the benefits that SD-WAN can offer. So our goal today is to provide information that will be helpful and offer solution ideas that show how this new technology can be deployed over existing infrastructure. If you'd like more information about Pulse, our background or capabilities, I can certainly provide that at the end or follow up after the call. For now, I'd like to hand the presentation over to Kevin Suter with TELoIP. Kevin?
Voice over IP is the critical business application. And as people increasingly move away from in-house VoIP systems to voice systems to hosted voice and other types of voice over IP systems, it really is the canary in the coal mine with regard to underlay network performance. And we spent a tremendous amount of time looking at how you solve that problem set, and we're going to talk a little bit about that here today. So as Bobby talked about, we've got the agenda that we have, and why is it that probably one of every 3 articles you read online or in a publication talks about software-defined networks? Well, the reason is that it's the last element in infrastructure to be virtualized. We've virtualized the data centers, we've virtualized out at the branch, we've virtualized the telecom infrastructure. It's gone completely digital, completely virtualized, with the exception of the traditional legacy MPLS WAN. And what we're looking at, and Gartner has identified this as a strategic planning assumption for enterprises and other organizations, that by 2020, so within 3 years, more than half of the WAN edge infrastructure refreshes are going to be based on SD-WAN versus traditional routing. So, your traditional Cisco, Juniper type routing architecture is going to slide away and be replaced by a lightweight SD-WAN edge, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Why is that? Well, these organizations that are really the early adopters have sort of provided the roadmap for everybody. They're looking at their edges, specifically out at the branch office, remote office edge, and in a lot of cases they look at their rural reach edges, places where traditional MPLS technology is horrendously expensive, places where it's difficult to get the desired bandwidth. And so we're providing with SD-WAN a way to buy, what I would call naked broadband and make it much more intelligent, but do that in a very simple and cost-effective approach. We're looking as well at, rather than needing a network where you've got to go and hire a bunch of CCNXs, whether CCNAs, CCIEs, CC whatevers, to run an internal layer 3 network, manage it, make decisions. Instead, people, especially in the SMB, mid-market, and small enterprise areas, are increasingly saying, I want to run my business, and I just want to buy a very elastic and agile network service from somebody who's going to make it their whole business to run the rest of the network for me. And so we're looking at dramatically reduced operational costs, improved management processes. And how we do that is, if you look at TELoIP specifically, we have built a lot of the operations functions into our Vino portal, our orchestration portal, and made sure that from order entry through to ongoing operations management, that we've built a solution set that allows us to run a network on a very cost-effective basis. So if you look at an SD-WAN solution, what are the core capabilities? Well, it's got to be lightweight. And lightweight, you can also substitute in there cheap. It may not have all of the bells and whistles you're used to seeing on a high-end ISR. In fact, the prevailing thought is you don't need all of that. You need a forwarding engine. So basically a lightweight forwarding engine from the branch to the central POP where the heavy weight and heavy lifting happens at much less cost. You need to have transport agnostic capability. I don't care if I'm running on MPLS, that's possible. DIAs, possible, but less expensive than MPLS, but still expensive. DSL, cable internet, LTE, don't really care. I'm going to be agnostic to that. What I want to have is an overlay system that allows me to take advantage, as appropriate, to the WAN transport that's available for the right price point, the right availability to meet my business needs. I don't want to be driven to have to buy something because a service provider lives and dies by MPLS. As an end user, I want that opportunity to bring my own broadband. I want to be able to distribute traffic across those broadband connections very efficiently in a dynamic fashion to deliver the highest possible application quality of experience metrics that you can get. So I want to have a policy-driven approach to my network. I want to do that very simply through templates. So I want to get rid of the complexity that you're used to seeing in command line interface-driven router architectures. I also want to get rid of the managed IP VPN that I've had to buy as well for both remote access users along with just building a VPN. If I opted to use broadband in the past and had to go build my own private VPN, SD-WAN provides all of that capability. Edge-to-edge IPsec class security from any edge, whether that's a branch office, a remote worker, an IoT device, we don't care. Edge-to-edge security using IPsec class encryption. So what are we doing? We're solving problems that enterprise network managers face today. A need for increased flexibility. As companies embrace digital transformation, they need to become much more flexible. Performance is decreasing. We have the ability to improve throughput capability in the network simply and elastically. The ability to decrease complexity through the templating and orchestration, and over everything else, manage cost. That is the #1 buying criteria, cost. In fact, if you look at this, cutting WAN spend and WAN performance, it's almost 50. It's an equal balance between the two according to data. Now, one of the things that we've noticed, and I'll show this in a case study a little bit later, is the decision on transport selection has a major impact on your total network cost. The decision points you need to make as you adopt software-defined network is in what are the underlays I pick? Because my underlay decisions drive my total cost of ownership. So for example, we have this market research study that shows that if you look at a 10 meg IPVPN solution, when you include the local access, that smart service is 21 times more costly than a naked broadband connection. And by the way, it is 10 times cheaper than an MPLS solution. So we have orders of magnitude differences in the cost of the underlay that you select, and that will directly impact the ROI that you can deliver to your end user business as you go through and run your ROI into your finance team. We know that MPLS isn't going away tomorrow. In fact, almost 3/4 of customers surveyed feel that they're going to keep MPLS as part of their network solution over time. That being said, about 1/4 of our deployments at TELoIP are complete rip and replaces. It tends to be organizations that have a lot of disparate sites. They tend to be bandwidths in the 25 to 50 megabit per second range. Say a retail store or a restaurant, things of that nature. And in these cases, they're completely removing their MPLS network. They're going with a pair of service providers, say a cable internet feed and a DSL feed. We're aggregating those feeds for them. We may be adding a 4G LTE backup service, and we're delivering them a 5.9 service offer to solve their problem that gives them better performance than what they were seeing with their MPLS network at much lower cost. What other segments aside from retail? Well, you can look at groups. We've had a lot of success in accounting, legal, healthcare. So you can think about any environment. If you have a multi-site environment with a heavy use of cloud services, where you're concerned about network performance, you're concerned about your cost, you're concerned about your time to your agility and flexibility and elasticity around digital transformation, you're probably a good candidate for SD-WAN today. What we've found, the tipping point items are that public cloud computing has rendered MPLS obsolete from a price perspective, from a performance perspective. So that's why people are adopting it today, and we're seeing that take off. I mean, last year it was 5% of the deals. This year it's already 15% of the deals. We're only halfway through the year. So the adoption rate is accelerating. It is near crossing the chasm into mainstream. And this was identified a couple of years ago by Andrew Lerner and Neil Rickard of Gartner, that these architectures, really from a price and performance perspective, are suboptimal the minute you adopt public and private cloud. And as recently as February of this year, Andrew continued to keep writing, and I spoke to Andrew on Tuesday of this week, and he continues to have this this feeling that U.S. service providers, for the most part, haven't kept pace with what their customers need in today's changing environment. And they're looking for alternative providers like TELoIP that provide really unique offers that give them much more flexibility than they were faced with previously. You see a lot of blogging from us around cloud breaking MPLS. We've found in conversations with our customers and conversations with our partners, this is the key decision point that drives a customer to start to examine a move to SD-WAN. In fact, what I've done is work with Dr. Jim Metzler to define an 8-paper white paper series. It's called The Journey to SD-WAN. You can go to teloip.com. It's right on our homepage, right at the top banner. You can click on and join to become part of the community that is receiving this set of papers. We've published 3 papers publicly so far in the series. We have another paper that will be pushed out probably tomorrow or on the weekend, on my weekend newsletter push. but there are 4 more to come. And it's to go through and examine all of the decision points necessary in this move and to make sure that we provide some good guidance and thought leadership as to how organizations need to examine this move. We think it's the most dramatic change in networking in the last 20 years. And time after time, Gartner, right, thinks that 2 out of 3 enterprises will have deployed SD-WAN somewhere on their network by the end of next year. That's a pretty big number, right? And why are they doing it? It has a tangible, proven return on the investment. Service providers are all jumping on the bandwagon because they're afraid if they don't do it, they're going to get cannibalized. And so SD-WAN is happening. If you make a move to the cloud, so typical environment, right? Historically, you've run Exchange in your data center, and Microsoft has come to you and told you, hey, you need to move up to Office 365 and you're going to run it out of the cloud. The minute you start to do that, you get performance impacts. So what does Microsoft tell you to do? Well, let's run direct internet access out of every branch. That's a freaking security nightmare. So what SD-WAN does is give you a way to keep that security risk low and allow you to adopt broadband price point economies to drive speeds up at the edge, to have breakouts out of centralized POPs that are geographically proximate to data centers, to reduce latency time and improve performance of cloud applications. So we make business critical apps that run in the cloud run better. SD-WAN is 10 times or greater faster. In fact, I'll show you that in a case study. We help reduce and change the whole OpEx-CapEx ratio. In fact, we will be bringing out a pricing model that literally is a single line. You define what your need is, and we will give you a single price that rolls everything. The hardware, the licenses, the backbone, everything into one SKU per site. So if you have, a 20 or 30 site facility, you will get a bill with 20 line items on it that covers off the software-defined network, the backbone, the management, the orchestration, the portal, everything. A completely different cost structure. That's how we claim 70% lower cost. Everything is encrypted. No need for any overlay encryption technologies. It is built right into the technology set, and it's secure, edge to edge. And it doesn't matter what that edge is. So people are adopting it today because they want to reduce complexity. They want flexibility in their locations. They want to get them turned up faster and more quickly. They want it optimized to better leverage the network and adjust to bandwidth intensive applications. They want to adopt secure software defined perimeter solutions that allow you to meet all of your emerging security requirements better than you have in the past. And you want to align the network to the user, the application, and the business requirements. So in short, you get an instantly agile, software-defined, broadband economy-based network environment. The other thing you want to do is, are your network needs a good fit, right? The network's changed with things like IoT. So industrial IoT, I attended Gartner's Technology Growth and Innovation Conference a couple of weeks ago. And one of the things that just floored me was one of the speakers got up and put up a slide that said, and I think I tweeted it out on my Twitter feed, it was, by 2020, there will be 1 million IoT devices added to the network fabric every minute. That is just mind-boggling. So If that's coming down the pipe, is your network able to support all of these different application flows that may be low bandwidth in some cases, maybe high bandwidth in others? But are you ready for this? Are you out in front of the problem? So let's talk about how is SD-WAN as a service deployed. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. This is sort of a Rosetta Stone for how to translate what we talk about in the SD-WAN world into, and specifically what we talk about as TELoIP with our VNO, Virtual Intelligent Network Overlay Framework, what we're talking about relative to IP networking levels, SDN layers, and then how that matches up across SD Internet and SD-WAN. And the big one is, you heard me talk already about underlays. When I talk about an underlay, right, I'm talking about the cable, ADSL, 4G LTE, MPLS, all of that. It's the data plane encapsulation pieces are the underlays, and that was internet access of the MPLS last mile and IP networking stack. If I look at IPsec or encryption layers, that's what we're really talking about with VNO SD-WAN, is an IPsec on the underlay securing the overlay payloads. We have route table equivalents, forwarding plane equivalents, management plane equivalents. These are all part and parcel of the SD-WAN as a service. And you can look up in some of our white papers all of this information. So, are you a good fit? Are you looking for higher performance? Are you looking for lower cost? Are you looking for more security? Are you looking for more agility? If you can check those 4 boxes, SD-WAN is a solution you should examine today. And what we deliver at TELoIP is a complete solution. We deliver scalability up to 1 gigabit per second. So we start at 10 megabits per second for SD-WAN, going up to a full gigabit per second. Cloud management of all branch devices through the VNO portal. We provide support through a service we call VNO RAS for all of your smart workers that are out on the road warriors, all of your SOHO workers. So say you've got remote call center workers, we can bring them in on a L2TP VPN into our POPs and add them into your SD-WAN network protected route domain. We can provide full connectivity for people's mobile phones into your SD-WAN route domain, whether that's I have it both on my iPad and my iPhone, along with on my Mac. So I can provide complete remote device, mobile device connectivity into that security, even if I'm outside the physical walls of our offices. I can bring IoT devices in and make them part of my overall network fabric. I can bring all my legacy data centers into the fabric. Every one of our appliances includes a virtual network firewall. It's already built into the platform, has been operational for over 8 years. And we're going to be exposing all of that capability out into the portal to allow you to develop a software-defined perimeter. 14 of our patents go to last mile capabilities that ensure that real-time communications like voice over IP can deal with underlying network failures seamlessly so that you get no drop VoIP calls, you get no mangled VoIP calls, you get no drop words. You might lose a syllable in the event of a major network catastrophe. We tie all that with quality of experience monitoring and analytics, including SLA for critical servers, things of that nature. And we can expose that capability, right out to an end user to provide, say weekly or monthly reporting on particular applications, particular services that are important to them. We live with MPLS. We know that MPLS is not going away. We have both a hybrid WAN or a full MPLS replacement technology. All of this is managed and orchestrated through the TELoIP cloud. So it is a complete and comprehensive SD-WAN solution delivered as a single bill. We've got POPs across North America. We've got 7 POPs in the United States, New York, Chicago, Atlanta, Dallas, Denver, LA, and Seattle, and we've got POPs in Vancouver and Toronto in Canada. That puts us within 20 milliseconds of virtually everywhere in North America. Today, we support over 1,500 communities across North America where we have technology deployed. So, proven reach capability. Here's a deployment example. I'm not going to drill into it a lot, but one thing I'd like to point out, if you look at the red line that is dotted and the green line that is solid. So let's imagine you've got a scenario where you have a DSL connection as the green line, or a cable internet connection, and I've got a 4G LTE backup circuit. We have this ability to send only control signals over the 4G LTE to keep the cost very, very low on that, but monitor packet by packet in real time the performance over the mainline DSL. The minute I have any problems, I can swing the circuit over seamlessly, hands off, to the LTE backup loop, monitor the performance of the DSL, and when it returns to good working order, swing all of the services back to the other side. And I can do that in an application priority order so that I can ensure absolute seamless performance. If I've got, say this is a 100 meg DIA circuit, I can and this 4G LTE backup only does 30, I can make sure that my voice and my critical apps absolutely get over and the other bits get dropped in the bit bucket in the sky. So I can make this a completely seamless handoff environment. When I get into the POP, I can take a left turn and go to SD Internet, access from that POP the proximal cloud services. I don't need to go back across the country to get there. I go out to the closest geographic access point and cloud location for the cloud service provider. Or I take a right-hand turn and I stay on the SD-WAN and I go and talk to my headquarters sites or data centers or other branch locations. So that's fairly typical service deployment. So why use SD-WAN? Well, CIO needs have changed. If we go back, even just a couple of years, a typical CIO, he had real challenges. How does he connect his remote sites? He had limited options, and pretty much if they were in remote rural, they were all going to be high cost. The apps that ran on the network, well, he was in control of his kingdom, right? He was the king of the kingdom. They were limited because he didn't want to spend time maintaining and managing apps. And he controlled the environment, right? He was the king of the enterprise. And they maintained that control through static policies, hardwired into hardware, whether that's routing, switching, firewalls. And the quality of service was delivered via their preferred service provider's MPLS network and the class of service parameters that they contracted for. Today's world is entirely different. Today, what you see is a tremendous amount of use of high-speed broadband, or the ability to aggregate multiple low to mid-speed broadband connections to create the high speed needed for rural markets. If you think about what happens in most environments, people have their mobile phones. They've got 70, 80, 100 applications on their phone. The minute they get to the office, they tether to the office Wi-Fi network. Those phone apps now become part and parcel of your day-to-day operation as an IT guy in the business. So rather than having 30 or 40 applications running on your network that you can keep controlled to have a good quality of experience for your users, you've got all these rogue applications, unsanctioned applications roaming all over your network that is a result of bring your own device policies. IT is only one of the stakeholders in this game now. You also have cloud providers managing quality parameters, external app owners, business line leaders, guys like me. I keep a marketing stack list in Evernote of all the apps I use. And right now, I looked this morning just ahead of doing a training course for one of our other partners, and I have 45 cloud services that I subscribe to, that I take money out of on my credit card every month, and these are, to me as a marketing leader, these are critical apps to me, and I own them. IT has nothing to do with this. It's completely outside of IT. And this is how business is running today. IT is only one stakeholder in the mix. So it is a different environment for them. So therefore, you need to start to develop some much more dynamic policy-based templates. You need to enhance your virtualization to deliver elasticity and agility to the organization. And this is why software-defined overlays have developed to be able to deliver that quality of experience and care over diverse carriers, right? You get a lot of benefit from moving from a single carrier environment to diverse carrier environment. You lose your exposure to routes, single routes causing outages. You lose your exposure to somebody pushing the wrong CLI command into a router. It just gives you the resiliency as opposed to redundancy necessary to truly get 5 nines type capability. So what we've built is an evolved WAN edge. Our Vino Edge appliances, aggregate multiple underlays at the edge. We perform intelligent packet steering, rate limiting, failover, bandwidth reservation over them. We fully encrypt end-to-end with policy-based shaping and acceleration. We encrypt the underlays from the branch to the POP. We then take a left turn to the public internet to cloud services, a right turn to the SD-WAN, and we manage this all through a central orchestration element through the Vino portal. So it's a complete, simplified network environment with the heavy lifting occurring in the core. We also deliver a lot of benefit for hosted voice over broadband. One of my jobs in my last company was running the IT shop, and we moved from an in-house voice system to a hosted voice system. And as we did that, we also moved from having just a slight need for good quality internet to having a great need. And I'll tell you a little bit about my journey on this. When we set up, we first did this in our Toronto office. And when I set up the Toronto office, we got a Bell DSL line. Bell Canada, major Canadian provider. Should have had more than adequate bandwidth to support it. It was running, most of the time 5–10% utilization. But we were getting inconsistent voice performance on the hosted voice side. There was latency changes. We get brownouts, dropouts. It just, the DSL service was not great. So we said, okay, well, let's try bringing in a higher rate. So we brought in a 100 meg cable internet feed. And we primarily routed all of the voice over that. Exactly the same performance. Where we gained what I would class an enterprise-grade voice over IP solution over hosted VoIP was when I aggregated traffic over the Rogers broadband service and the Bell DSL service and used network aggregation to deliver a seamless experience where they routed packets over the best path in the moment and protected from drop calls, from voice calls being torn up, brownouts. I got bidirectional quality of service. Quality scoring on my VoIP. I could get regular reporting on it, full tools and troubleshooting to get through this. So aggregation works. And the art of aggregation is what TELoIP has been practicing since 2002. We have tons of patents on this. Out of our 20 patents, as I said, I think there's about 14 of them that relate to how we aggregate these low-cost, cheap broadband, last-mile applications. This is the heart and soul of what makes TELoIP different. We've got a lot of technology. You can go to our website. You can read up on each one of these technology sets that sit underneath and make all of these promises reality. And I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on them here, but if you're interested, we can set up a separate technology deep dive. Bobby and the team at Pulse will be more than happy to set up a workshop with you to help go through all of the great stuff that we do under the covers. So we have a buyer's guide, and that buyer's guide is available. It's a buyer's guide for SD-WAN, and what I've done is extract a couple of tables from it just to have a chat. I really encourage you to go to our website, go to the resources page, download the buyer's guide, and give it a read. It will give you some good information. We've tried to make this very vendor agnostic, very much around you deciding what solution that you need and what the attributes are that matter to you in your SD-WAN journey. We obviously think you should pick the far right-hand column with everything that we do at TELoIP. We think there's a lot of benefit to this ability to do diverse carrier aggregation, having our ability to get a lot. We've got a couple of patents that go to long-haul proximal aggregation between our POPs, bi-directional quality of service, class of service, quality of experience, and we think carrier-grade service delivery and our whole white glove managed service approach, all of these are big differentiators. But everybody has their set of desires as to what they want. We'd like to present how all of the technologies work. We go through what all the bit pieces are, what each of these rows talk about, and we can lay out exactly how our competitive set all fit against these. We've been doing this longer than anybody else in the space. We have more patents by major factor. I think our next closest competitor has 4 patents. We have 20. And we don't do that to become a patent troll. We're not going to go out and sue everybody. But it provides, I think, comfort level to know that we're investing in technology innovation, and we're doing it not on the, not with the intent to go and sue everybody, but more to the intent to provide you the safety net to know if you deploy our technology suite, it is a unique and protected approach. So, last 2 slides. Said I'd have a couple of examples. This one is really interesting. So this is a legal firm. This legal firm actually is based in California. They had 20 locations, headquarters, and 19 remote sites. They were, believe it or not, still running a T1 MPLS environment. They had broadband as a backup, and it was a manual backup, like you take the blue cable and move it over into the other connection in the event of a failure. We upgraded all of the sites to Vino WAN with our Vino portal comes as part of that license. So we moved it from a 1.5 meg circuit to a 50 meg circuit at every branch. We also improved the data. It was 10 meg at the headquarters site, and we took them up to 50 as well. And that gave them 33 times more speed at every branch. But we did that with 39% lower cost. Right? So think about this performance cost as a balloon, and you can squeeze the balloon to get different outcomes. In fact, you could say, you know what, I want to spend exactly what I'm spending today, and I just want all of those savings to go into performance. Or you can say, I want exactly the speeds I have today, and I just want to go capture the cost savings. Your choice. But we delivered, went from $140,000 year 1 to $85,000 year 1, and recurring out over time. So every year we were saving them $55,000 a year in annual savings. Heck of a good ROI. And that use case is pretty universal, right? This was and by the way, the underlay on this case was a naked DSL underlay. We used 2 DSL links, right? That's how we got the 2 VDSL links per site. That was how we got the 50 meg bandwidth licensing going on these, just as an FYI. So we used diverse DSLs. We didn't provide these guys with any 4G LTE backup. In this case, this was just a straight diverse carrier DSL play. Here's another approach, and this was an example of an accounting firm, and this accounting firm had 11 sites. They were running unified communication and collaboration, Skype for Business, and Office 365. They had some performance issues. By the way, Skype for Business, right? Our data tells us that 65% of Skype for Business deployments have adoption challenges due to network performance, and so it's an area. Skype for Business is truly a canary in the coal mine kind of application. We delivered. So we were actually. This was a competitive deal from earlier this year. This was about February timeframe. We did this deal. We actually delivered to the customer $120,000 in savings versus a competitor's DIA-based SD-WAN offer. So a competitor went in. They quoted DIAs, 50, 100, and 200 meg DIAs to the site, to each site. We went in with naked broadband. We delivered for the network annually 63% lower cost than the DIA-based solution. This was significantly lower cost than the existing MPLS offer that it was on the table. It wasn't even under consideration. It really came down to the minute they looked at the cost of MPLS at these speeds against the cost of DIAs or the naked broadband approach. They just tossed MPLS off. They made a decision to do a complete rip, and so it came down to an us versus them, SD-WAN to SD-WAN, DIA versus naked broadband approach. And $120,000 a year is nothing to sneeze at in a very margin challenged business where every dollar you save goes into the partner's pockets. And so this really was a dramatic business case win for us. Okay, and this is fairly typical of what you see in many SD-WAN deployment examples. So with that, I'd like to open this up. Bobby, we have any questions on the line?
Yeah, we actually do. So now we've got some questions here for you, Kevin. But also, if you have questions that you'd like to ask, feel free to ask them now. We'll add them and go on for a little bit longer. I think we'll allow for about an hour or so, so we've still got a few minutes left. The first question, Kevin, is compared to MPLS, how secure is SD-WAN?
Sure. Great question, Bobby. So now MPLS has inherent layer 2 security in it in just the way that it is designed, right? It provides isolation inherently through its network design by completely isolating at layer 2 each customer into its own domain. In the case of SD-WAN, we do that isolation through the use of encryption. So each of those protected route domains is completely isolated and encrypted from all others. So even though we're using, a shared media backbone, for example, they are completely isolated networks at layer 3 from each other and fully encrypted end to end, and only traffic from an SD-WAN endpoint that is authorized and entered through the IPsec encryption authentication process can actually enter the SD-WAN environment. So I would say from a security profile perspective, they are equivalent levels of security to each other.
Okay. Here's another one. If I have a VPN, can I use SD-WAN as my gateway?
So, if you have a current VPN solution set, there are a couple of ways that we at TELoIP have dealt with this. The first methodology is all of the benefit I talked about with regard to network resiliency, redundancy, things of that nature can be delivered through our SD Internet service offer. And so we can sit in front of any managed IPVPN solution and add on all of the other benefits you see that I talked about SD-WAN, with the exception of the encryption layer. You can rely on your existing managed VPN solution to deliver that encryption and security that you're looking for. And we'll deliver all of the remainder, the aggregation, the packet distribution, the visibility, the policy-based templating, the agility. All of those benefits will come with SD Internet, and you can maintain and manage your keys and your private IPVPN solution separately. That's one approach. The second approach is that you can gateway between your two environments. So you can have an IPVPN termination co-located with a Vino endpoint, and then allow the two environments to talk to each other's environments through those gateway or gateway points. So two ways to swing that gap.
Okay, great. Next question, Kevin. Can we provide customers a single IP so that if their headquarters has a terminal server, users off the site can traverse all WAN connections?
So we have, when we deliver the solution set, we deliver an IP space to each endpoint. And depending on the need, that we either provide a private IP address, or we can provide public IP space at an additional cost within our ASN to allow people to access remote sites with a public IP address, things of that nature. So we can address that requirement for customers.
Okay. Next question, how about the upload speed in a cloud computing environment? So DSL and cable can't perform, so the stated savings are not really there, I guess is the statement. So how would you address that, Kevin?
So upload speeds, that's really the secret sauce, right? So when you do network aggregation, what we're doing is we are actually aggregating, and we have this additive effect. We are not looking at each link separately. We actually treat, if I have 3 DSL connections, let's say these DSL connections are 16 down and 7 up, I actually treat that as 3 by 16 aggregated, so 48 meg down, and 7 by 3 up, 21 up. So to our overlay, those underlays look like, and after we calibrate, there'll be some overheads. So let's say they will look like 45 down and 20 up. And we distribute the packets across all of them and do all the reordering, everything, all the magic happens under the covers. But they look like 3 big pipes. So that's how we achieve the aggregation and the upload speed.
Okay. All right, and the time of that question is, I guess the question is, where do you get DSL with 16 down and 7 up? I know here I'm in Virginia, and where it's typically maybe 30 down and 5 up or so. So I guess it probably varies around the country. I don't know what you see where you are, Kevin.
Well, I used that example because that happens to be one of the combinations that Bell Canada sells that they offered me at my home.
Gotcha. Okay, good.
It just happened to be one that was close at hand in my head on a DSL service offer.
Gotcha. Another question, is there any situation where we should avoid or be careful selling SD-WAN?
Good question. I would suggest that SD-WAN is best served in opportunities where the pain points that we identified, the need for performance, the need for cost savings, the need to support changing applications, the need for agility. If those needs aren't there, I wouldn't go trying to go create an opportunity. But there's a lot of companies that have those needs. That's where I go spend my time. It's not that there are bad application sets for SD-WAN. I think ultimately, as we go out over time, software-defined networks will completely replace MPLS. So it's just a matter of degree as to when it is appropriate to go and engage in a sales motion with a customer. The inherent need has to be there. It's less a is it or is it not capable of supporting it, and more a what is the appropriate time frame for that business to engage. And I guess there is actually one scenario, and that is customer wants a layer 2 network. This is really a layer 3 network technology set. So if somebody's looking for a pure layer 2 environment, probably not a good fit.
Okay. All right. Another question here. You talk about SD-WAN as a service. Is there any hardware involved? I can answer this one, Kevin. You can chime in as well. So yes, there is CPE involved with every site that would be in your network. In the case of the 1901, for example, there's a piece of CPE gear in each of those locations, and the size of the CPE gear is determined by the throughput desired. So if it's 50 megs at one site, you may have one type of CPE. If it's a gig at the next site, it's a different type. But the hardware is required to aggregate the services together. So you may have a DSL pipe, you may have a cellular pipe as a backup, you may have a standard cable modem. So you've got a variety of services that can be fed into the CPE device, and the outcome is it directs it towards the services there. Anything else, Kevin?
No, good description.
Okay. Let's see. Couple more here. Can I bridge physical ports together?
Can I bridge? Oh, lag type capability.
Yeah.
So on the LAN, so we actually bridge the LAN. So we take the appliance ports, and that's effectively one part of what we are doing on the WAN side of the equation. Our physical ports are 10/100 gig ports, and so on the LAN side, typically a single port will work for the LAN side, and we use the ports on the WAN side to connect to multiple underlays, and we're effectively using them as a you would think about it similar to lag. We're not doing lag on it, but similar to what lag would do. So they are being effectively bridged together.
Okay. And the last question that I see so far, can 4 nines reliability and performance predictability be delivered if only internet connections are used? So can 4 nines reliability and performance predictability be delivered if only internet connections are used?
Yes. However, in order to deliver 4 nines capability, so you're talking about, I don't have that chart in this deck, but I do have a chart, and it's also up on our website. There's a few design caveats. To get to 4 nines, what we have seen in the real world example over the last couple of years with our SD Internet offer is that you need to use diverse carriers. So, a DSL provider and a cable internet provider, an LTE provider. If you use 2 or more providers, such that you can keep, you're not likely to see multiple service outages at once, things of that nature. It is one piece of the design puzzle. The other piece with 4 nines, you need to have a cold standby unit on premise, because you can't meet the minutes of outage in a month without having to hit 4 nines, without having the ability to go and open a box up and plug a new box in and get it up and running in under 30 minutes. So that was the other criteria, is you need a cold spare. And we have special pricing and things of that nature to deal with the cold spare type piece. You also could run the solution set in an HA environment. And in fact, if you run, our math shows us based on stats from deployments, if you run 3 carriers with HA, you will be truly 5 nines compliant over time. And we have customers that have run that configuration and been up and running for years, meeting 5 nines. A little bit more expensive, right? So everybody has a set of trade-offs to get there.
Yeah. So Kevin, the question that comes up too is just basically, so what is SD-WAN? So we're talking about a lot of technical questions that are getting answered, but basically, what is SD-WAN? I guess I would look at it as basically a cloud service, a layer 3 cloud service that allows optimization of internet traffic and wide area networking. But give me a basic definition for SD-WAN in your mind.
In my mind, it is SD-WAN is a technology solution that has basically been broken apart so that I can separate. I've got separation of my data plane and my control plane. I have separation of my orchestration plane. I have separation of my management plane. So I'm meeting the architectural definition of software-defined networks from the point of view of separation of functionality and placement of functionality into appropriate areas. From a more layman definition, SD-WAN is effectively a way of moving to a lightweight edge, heavyweight core network where most of the heavy lifting occurs in the controllers, the gateways and controllers in the cloud, in the data collection engines that live in the cloud, and in the management and orchestration portals that live in the cloud. So that's another way that you can think about, I'm reducing my effective processing footprint from the edge, I'm shifting it into the center. Okay,
understood. All right, we're at the top of the hour. We've got time for one more question here that just came in. Is the HA active?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
The HA, so we have both active and active passive capability. In active, you get a circuit switchover in about 5 milliseconds.
Okay. All right. Well, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today for our webinar. Our contact information is here on the screen. I can be reached at B. Bain at Pulse Supply, and Kevin can be reached at K. at TELoIP. I'll be glad to take these discussions further, take them offline, and answer any questions you may have. If you want to try the service, you have customers of your own that might want to try the service, more than happy to, I guess, to put our money where our mouth is, I guess, if no other term. But we're excited about doing demonstrations for folks out there, and again, the technology is being adapted and looked at in tons of areas. So the timing is right. So if you want more, if you have more questions about this technology, or we can help in any way, just let us know. Anything you want to add, Kevin?
No, that's great. And as I said at the kickoff, appreciate everybody taking the time. And be more than happy. By the way, if you we're quite active on social media. Follow us on Twitter, TELoIP, at TELoIP. You can follow me as well if you want more management and things of that nature, at Kevin Suter. And our LinkedIn page is also quite active as well, and lots of new content showing up on our website every month.
Thank you, Kevin, and thanks everyone else for joining us today. Thank you.